Hi. He is from Stellenbosch United, and he's going to be joining Philadelphia Union. Now, he's a 19-year-old. So he's 19, and he's choosing to go over to the MLS, and he's going to join there, which has a couple of questions because he's not the first one now who's going over. We've seen Jabulo Blom, who's playing for St. Louis City, coached by Bradley Cornell. He's 23. He's doing very well that side. We've seen Ubonguhle Tongwane at Minnesota FC. He's also 23. He's doing very well. I believe he won Player of the Week or something like that a few weeks ago. Then we've heard about the rumors of Cassius Mailula going to a North American team, which turns out to be very, very North American. Apparently, he's wanted by Toronto FC, who have allegedly offered Sundowns 30 million rand for his services. Cassius is 22. So now we're seeing 19-year-old Oletu Makanya, Bongutle Flangwane, who's 23, Jabulo Plombo's 23, Cassius Mailula, who's also who's 22, heading over to the MLS to go play their trade. And it's very interesting because all the time when we've been growing up, all we've ever thought was if you're going to be a footballer and you want to be a serious footballer, you want to go to Europe, right? Everybody's been saying that Europe is the place to go. Even if you go Belgium, we've seen about Pesitao who struggled to get into that Brighton team, even just from having been there for a while. Now he struggled to get into that team. And we're seeing that there's been a bit of a dip in South African players really wanted. So it's very interesting to watch them all flocking towards the MLS, especially at the type of rates that they're going to right now, which begs a couple of questions, which I'm going to ask the panel that I'm going to open for right now. Please remember that you have to be following me in order to add your voice to a panel. And also, if you're on Facebook and you're hearing people speaking and you're wondering where it's coming from, join me over on TikTok, Overthinking Football. Follow the account and you'll be able to get onto the panel and we can speak about some of these things. So yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, people have been going to Europe, but now it seems the league of choice for young South African players turns out to be the MLS. And I think some of the questions we have to ask of the MLS is, what type of level is the MLS? Are we sending players over there? Or are these players signing over there and getting better? Or is it a situation that they just took an offer that came and they moved over there as soon as possible, wanting to go overseas, right? A lot has been questioned of the MLS. People have been comparing it to the Saudi League, comparing it to the Chinese League, and where they've been able to bring in some stars, Abo Beckham, Abo Henry, and those guys played in America. Is there a system where we're going to see those players get worked back into a Bafana, for example? Now, Sehoana has been playing so well that side. Haven't seen anything of him within the national team. So let's see what happens. Guys, you can jump on and request. Let me bring in Umpo. Prampo, welcome to the show, my brother. How are you doing?
Good evening, my brother, and also each and everyone who listens to us. We say good evening.
Pelalona, you guys are my starting lineup, Saka. Starting lineup, Saka. So I wanted to ask you, let's jump straight into it. Firstly, what are your thoughts on 19-year-old Oletu Makanya moving over to Philadelphia Union from Stellenbosch United?
No, according to me, again, there's a lot of things that is happening. Like if you go to ML League, money is good, you get dollars. And here in PSL, if the PSL is hardly you can see players that they are earning million a month. But there, automatically you are there. Let's say you come back, you are rich, you are a millionaire. It's good, but for competitive, no.
Yeah.
It's the same as a PSL.
Oh, so you don't rate the MLS very highly. Messi is there now. You don't rate it highly.
Messi is there to make money.
No, I hear you. Let me bring in Jackson. Jackson, welcome to the show, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you saying?
No, I'm good. So, firstly, quick thoughts on this situation where here's a 19-year-old South African player, played at Stellenbosch United, played at Stellenbosch FC, decided, I'm going to the MLS?
In terms of the quality, the PSL is better than the MLS. I followed it very well. The PSL is better. I think maybe we think about the money and the exposure. That's all I think about. Yes, maybe when you perform well, one of the European teams will see you. They can sign you.
Okay.
But yes, it's all about financial. It's not being the gross. It's not about the gross. The PSL is way better. Even the Saudi League is better. Yes, even the Chinese League is better than the MLS.
Hey,
most of the players who are going,
yeah,
yes, most of the players are going to the MLS. They are already old. They are just going there to collect a big paycheck. Yes.
Okay, no, I hear you. How's that? Welcome to the show, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah, how are you? Sorry.
Sharp. How are you doing? Are you okay?
No, I'm okay this time. No phone calls, nothing like that. I'm all here now.
Excuse me, leadership.
Hey,
leadership. Sorry. Something that need to be highlighted here. Sorry to interject. When we talk here, we talk our mind. No one ever right to call us and we are talking nonsense. Please, let's respect each other. If they don't like here, they have to move.
We should respect each other, man.
No, don't worry about them. We'll deal with them. Howza? Tell me how you feel about this move. Another youngster is going
Another
over.
one. Another one. You know what? I'm gonna differ with Jackson and Mpo.
Okay.
Here's why I say that. The structure of the MLS is one that is competitive. They're having the full league and then playing the West and the East. That in itself is very competitive.
Okay.
The MLS, guys, this is what I want to bring to you. The MLS, yes, it does have old players, but please go individually. Go check their number of youngsters. They have this under 22 initiative that they are doing.
Okay.
That both Messi and the other guys, when they go that side, we know the World Cup is coming up. Messi wants freedom. Messi wants peace. That's why he's going to the MLS, But then to say that the MLS is full of old guys and is not as competitive as the PSL, I beg to differ. Respectfully, I beg to differ, because guys, yes, there is money, and money. What comes with money? Talent. Go look at how they're scouting the Spanish guys.
Okay.
Tell me. We have the Almirons of this world. That's okay. MLS. Martinez, he plays for Atalanta. That guy is good. He's one of the older guys. But because of what he showed, look at how the MLS is scouting young players.
Yeah.
You go now to places like the one here, Philadelphia, on their websites, and you look at what they are doing. They're with their under 22 initiative. It's becoming competitive. It's guys, you remember what I said yesterday? We used to be competitive. Look at Kaizer Chiefs, for example. Kaizer Chiefs had the one of the most terrible seasons in their season.
Yeah.
What position did they finish?
Yeah.
They finished fifth.
Yeah.
If we take that current Kaizer Chiefs with their form and we put it, let's put it in Sweden. I'm taking you to the one of the weakest leagues in Europe. We put Kaizer Chiefs in Sweden. With the current form that they had last season, what position do you think they're going to come out as? They're going to probably be relegated.
Yeah.
But then because of our teams are lackluster, our teams are not playing up to par. Teams like Kaizer Chiefs, who had a horrible, you look at the statistic, they had a horrible season.
Yeah.
But then they finished fifth. So what does that say about us? When everybody can see that Kaizer Chiefs was having a horrendous season, but they finished fifth. What about number 6, 7 until 16? What kind of season were they having?
Yeah.
Are we really going to sit here and say that we're going to praise clubs like Royal? No, they were doing good, but then they finished below Kaizer Chiefs. Guys, it's MLS is not what we used to know it as. Can we please take our time and we go look at these clubs? When we go look at these clubs, their initiatives, then you go into their squads.
Yeah.
Their league is still carrying on. Their league is still carrying on. Actually, yeah. Download an app called FootMob and look at the starting lineups of those teams and tell me how many old players you see in the leagues, in the starting lineups. It's competitive. It's getting there. It might not be as best as some of the European leagues, but then to compare it with the PSL, guys, currently MLS is winning. Is winning.
No, I hear you, Khoza. And welcome to the show, my brother.
Hola.
Abantu is starting lineup Sami. What do you think of Lendaba? You're another 19-year-old MLS.
You know, I want to take what Cristiano Ronaldo said, I think 3 days back, saying Saudi Arabian League is better than MLS. And then people take that thing and then by firing on doing, and then they visualize it and think MLS is a poor league. But MLS is much more better than Amayama leagues are like Africa. That league is much more better. And Gakulgas, that team it favors more Ama youngsters than our like Ama Messi. Messi is there just to promote a World Cup. And just imagine our players, now we are having more players. Wait, even Nalumfana, whose name, Tikin Tabeleng, there's this boy that people forget. Without MLS, not to mention Nabo Songwane and also Nabo Blom. And now adding Khanye no Mailud. So these players, they are gonna play no Messi, and they are gonna be scouts today because of where Messi goes, there's a spotlight, and then the spotlight won't shine alone. Messi is gonna shine also on our players. If our players are gonna perform there, they're gonna attract our European teams there to sign them because of they'll see there is potential go MLS. So MLS is doing well, and with this boy rejecting mamelodi Sundowns because of I heard this boy almost signed for mamelodi Sundowns, but the boy said no, he's just gonna go to Philadelphia. It's a good choice for the boy to go there, not stay like a South African player who Sundowns. This is what we need as a country. This is what we love to see. Our players getting a chance to go there. Yes, we know that in the past our players might have failed go Europe. We know Gutamanye, they are returned soldiers. We're playing Europe. But if our players can make it to MLS, then I see a better Bafana. I see a well-developed South Africa in terms of football. So it's great to see our players going there. Maybe there are still more players that are going to be announced going into the MLS because of looks like the MLS has shifted its attention to South African football already. So it looks like the MLS teams, they are still going to come here and sign our players. So this is just the beginning, I'm telling you.
Okay. No, I hear you. Let me read some of the comments that are coming in. Let's see. Played 1 season in PSL. I'm happy for him. Spa says, who's this guy? His name is Oluwetu Khanye from Stellenbosch. PSL is easily better than MLS. You're talking nonsense, Paul. MLS is more competitive, guys. Lay down your thoughts. Let's keep it respectful. I meant the PSL is way better than the MLS. It's all about business and looking at the stats. How many players left the MLS to the top European leagues? Tebogo, welcome. That's true. PSL is far better than the MLS. It's good for the national team. My point. I'm on the bench.
It's clean, yeah. The one which is washed.
Oh, hey. They play against Mexican teams. They tend to do well. Khoza is on fire. Alvarez played for River Plate, not in the MLS. We don't have as much exposure as the MLS does. It's not better. We just want the dollars. MLS is a step up. Oh, okay. MLS is a step up. Let's see. We can't say the PSL is better when Chipa doesn't even have a single scout. I will get into that another day. Let me go back to Mpo. There's somebody in the comments that brought up a very good point. How many players are going from the MLS into Europe? Do you think that maybe taking that extra step going into Europe is, I don't want to say a waste of time, but it becomes a situation like Upesitau, where when he finally got into the league, he just was too old. What do you think of that?
The point that you are raising for this 19-year-old, I think someone on the panel says something like, when Messi play, there's like a attraction. Maybe like something that I kind of like watch the clip of Blom. He was excelling. The way he's playing. If maybe, let's say European so-called, because we believe European, they are better than other leagues anyway. You understand? He can fit a so-called, what do you call it, this England league. He can fit the way he plays. Maybe the way he is performing. Because he's holding that midfield very well. If let's say he play against, he did play against Messi. He was better than Messi in that game. That is a situation like it. You know that question that you ask. America, for me, they are good on developing women. Women soccer team, they are better. I think that I can rate them number one. But when it comes to men, they are still far away to catch up. That's and an advantage of this player that they are going there. The facilities, they've got a top facilities, and they do more research on the players, what kind of stuff, food you have to eat, diet, those things. Those players, they only benefit when it comes to endurance.
But is it a waste of time in terms of, if I want to go to Europe, I mean, Blom is 23, Cassius is 22, Bonguse Tlongwane is 23. Isn't this man just... It's another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, if we talk about Europe, do we mean they have to go to England?
Oh yeah, maybe to one of the top 5 leagues, top 6 leagues. Maybe end up in La Liga, French league, things like that.
Okay, this question to your leadership. In America, you are getting as like a Blom is getting 5 million a month. You go to England, you are getting 3 million. You are going to get a bench. What do you do as a player?
Well, I guess you can get the money, or you might be able to move up and get better, even better if you go to Europe. I guess you have to balance out which one is more important, the money or improving in better leagues, I guess.
Like Messi, when he was leaving South Africa, Messi was a hot property. What happened to him? You have to go to...
It's the same thing that I'm asking about Percy, for example. Percy left and spent 3 years in Belgium because he couldn't get into England because of passport, because of working permit stuff. In England, that's gone now. They took it away. It's no longer as harsh to get into England. So are these guys making a good choice going that side, or should they follow up with Lyle Foster?
Now, to me, when the route that they are taking for money-wise, that is good. They will come to retire at PSL. They will come back and retire here. To me, money-wise, is fine.
Okay. Okay, one more question. Is this going to help Bafana?
Bafana is a dead root. Thank you, leadership.
Okay, no, let me leave you. I'm gonna jump to Khoza. Doesn't this feel like it's an extra step, man? It's an extra step. I'm not going that high. I'm playing in the MLS show, but what are my chances of going to Europe, let's say? What are my chances of playing that football? What are my chances of getting into Bafana? What do you think? Is it an extra step for no reason that these guys are going that side?
It is one of those things, what the MLS is doing. They are developing their own league.
Okay.
England is in a crisis. And why do I say this? People are waking up to realize that what the Saudis are doing is what the English have been doing. You look at their politics and what they're doing. There was no explanation why they removed that thing, longevity application. You must, if you want to go, the thing that delayed Messi. They've removed it. And you ask yourself why. It's the tale of two stories. It's for excess. England has been known as this team, the most hardest league to get into. They do not have development. When you go play there, you must be a star and shine. But then now what Saudi is doing is saying, guys, you're going to go there and shine, but are you going to be able to take care of your family? Look at the number of players that are jumping from England to go take care of their family in Saudi. So it's those things that they are looking for. Okay, if we want to remain one of the best, we must now make it easy for people to access our leagues. But then again, we must speak to our quality as the PSL. Are we really sure that we can make it there? So what I'm looking at is that the MLS is saying to South Africa, what they're saying to us is that come this side, develop, and when you are ready, jump ship. I'm willing to bet now that Njabula Blom and somebody who comes straight from South Africa and go to the major leagues in Europe, Njabula Blom by 2026 would be more developed than the guy who moved from South Africa straight to one of the big European teams, because even in their development teams, if you look at, do you know how competitive those things are? Like you how if you fell out and then you think to crash God. No. There's a level of expertise they need from you. And which we cannot offer our players. That's why I think going the MLS route is good for young players who are still yet to develop. Always no disrespect to him, but I don't think he would cut it in the championship at England. I do not think he would cut it. But then there are 19 years old Spanish kids who are succeeding, they're flying. Why? Because where they come from, there's already development in place. And what about South Africa? As a trainer who said that Jipa does not even have a scout.
They put out a press conference and said, if you want to become the left back of Chipa from 19 years old to 28 years old, come.
But then you see,
if I was 3 years younger, if it was a couple years younger, then I could try like Chipa.
But then you see the level of our performance. Now, guys, I'm talking about people moving from the PSL to big leagues. PSL does not have the kind of facilities. Look at Always. You're moving from Stellenbosch. These guys are not signing guys from Sundowns because they know that Sundowns is going to want to keep their players because Sundowns is building for themselves. So taking a Pesitao to England right now makes sense because he has that experience. Taking Kamabiliat to Europe makes sense because he has played for so many years. And this is not look at the Africans who are leaving South Africa, and when they go to Europe, he's a star player. He's scoring so many goals for this team. That's what I'm talking about, But then for young players, the MLS route is better unless you are willing to take the journey of moving from, let's say, FC Lorient to Marseille to PSG. If you are willing to do that, fine. But if you want to go straight to Marseille and PSG, my friend, you're gonna come back and tell us that France is not even that good because now you didn't even get playing time, But then the MLS road for young players is a good one, and for Bafana, it's gonna help us because
Bafana.
Yes, I just remember. I'm not gonna say it. It does help Bafana in a sense of exposure. They're not only signing from South Africa, The players who are gonna go, who are leaving their small countries, the countries that I know we can beat, like your Mexico, your some South American teams, your Australia, New Zealand. Those teams are where South Africa, are where Bafana must be saying, okay, guys, I belong in this circle, So going there, taking Always to play against those guys who will definitely feature in the 2026 World Cup is an advantage for us. We know that the more you have European, look at Morocco, for example. How many of the players in the starting lineup that beat Portugal were from the Moroccan league? Very few. But then those who have experience playing with the Europeans, playing with the Portuguese, they ended up being the semi-finalists often. The World Cup. So this does help Bafana. And beyond 2026, even going further. Yeah.
Okay. No, I hear you. Projection. What thing projection kana? Let me see. Who's here? Let me go back. Lento, is it just an extra step? Because if we're saying that the MLS is not that high up on the list, and we're saying Uti, it's not going to really develop them like that. Isn't this just an extra step for them, before they go to Europe, or does it make it harder for them to go to Europe?
One thing I've noticed in MLS, it's one thing that doesn't make it more competitive is that they don't have relegation, there's no promotion.
Yeah.
So in MLS, you can lose all matches like in a season, but you still not gonna get relegated. So it's one of those things in MLS. There's no League One, there's no League Two. It's just the same league. You play whatever matches you want. You look at Inter Miami now. They are there down. Even if they don't win the matches, even if Messi is there, they're probably not gonna get relegated still.
Yes.
So MLS, yes, for our players, it's a great way for our players to go to Europe, because it seems like Europe has been blue ticking us recently. So it's a good thing for our players to go there to MLS, just play their football, just express themselves. European teams will come calling. Like you can see that in the MLS, there's already a South African coach, Khanye. Already you can see now he's playing a role. Yeah, you can see now he's playing a role in terms of bringing South African players into the MLS. He's there vouching for us. So another thing for our players to go Europe, to go to the Europe, look at Motsepe. He's there playing for Strasbourg, but he was loaned out. He's not even a regular now. He's starting to be a French player. The next thing you see him playing for Kaizer Chiefs here. He's coming back home, and the age is some Voma. So in Europe, I feel like some of our South African players, they don't have that mentality to go there in Europe and to compete. Look at our player as a Nigeria. I think every team as a Europe does have a Nigerian player there. Those players, they go there and compete. Not whenever things don't go their way, now we have to force them to come back home. They should stay there. So if our players are not ready for Europe, they should just go to MLS and just play there for now, because it seems like our players have been failing dismal in Europe. It's only now that we are seeing about Lyle Foster. But before our Lyle Foster, we have about Erasmus, Keegan Dolly, Andy Lechale, Boman Zuma. All of them, they are return soldiers. Yes, they all came home. Those were promising players 5 years back, 7 years back, but now they are home. And some of them, they are still 30, 31. So it's those things which now some players which are not ready there for going.
I like that, yeah.
Look at Upesitao. I felt like Upesitao didn't have to come back here playing in Africa because of the same guys that were bench warmers in Upesitao. They are regulars, manje. Some of them are being sold to Abo Liverpool.
Yes.
So it's those things with some players that are not patient enough to stay in Europe. Whenever, if a player sees that coach is not playing him, how many players have been bench players in Europe, but now they are stars? Mohamed Salah was a bench player with Chelsea. Kevin De Bruyne was a bench player. So our players don't have that mentality. They just want the easy route. Just say, I just want to be there starting lineup. Look at Brighton now. Just imagine if Upesitao was patient enough to stay with Brighton. We have seen right now, he was going to be a regular, or he was going to be sold to Arsenal because of he was one of the best players there, best signings there. But he chose to listen to the South African media shaming him. We are not going to play for you, Bafana, because of you are not a regular Brighton, so you are going to lose your spot. So it's one of those things. The media now also influences our players there in Europe. They put their pressure. Even though Hugo Bros, there was a time Hugo Bros didn't call up Upesitao. He was saying Upesitao is not getting enough time. But other nations, they still play their players, even if their players they are playing in the Premier League, but not getting enough time. But the national team, they still play them. So it shows Ugutina. South Africa.
No, sorry. I just wanted to ask you. So would you say that this move to America, let's say Uplom, is this more of there was an opportunity there, or is it Europe seems too hard, man. Do you think there's some of that? For example, Abo Plom, Abo Bansongwane, those guys. Is it maybe some of that? Not Kabar.
it can be fear, or like our players seeing that our former players failing in Europe. Some players, well, South Africa, I don't think they do prefer playing in Europe. Like Blom is a star there. I mean, I would like Blom to not stay there more than 3 years or 2. Blom is a star there. Like, these players can easily fit to League One, because you can see if you can take Blom to League One, like it's gonna be even a much better player than he is now. Louis City. So our players should go to Europe. Europe is the private school of football. Europe is the private school of football. Those leagues, I'm fly finance leagues, about MLS, Saudi Arabian leagues, those are just money leagues. If a player wants to be a star, must go to Europe, guys. Europe is the private school of football. They should just go to Spain, the Premier League, all of the top 5 best leagues. So our players should not think of retiring MLS. No, guys. They should not think of retirement. That is not a retirement for young players.
Do you think that Bafana gets any better because of this? Yeah.
You know one thing about Bafana, the development, we've been talking about this, the development is it will keep on ruining more players, even if you send these players. Like, for instance, this boy, Ukatle Gonsabeling, has been playing MLS, but Hugo Bros decided or opted not to give him a call-up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things which Bafana sometimes they don't necessarily like have faith on this boy. So yes, some of them they're gonna benefit Bafana. If a player is performing, if a player is consistent, then that player I see no reason for that player not to get a call up Bafana. Even if he's playing MLS, it's up to the consistency of the player and the performance. Then why not? Then it should be called up Bafana. Yeah.
Okay. No, I hear you. Tebzangwana, welcome to the show. How are you doing, my brother?
Hi, Gemonata Chimeka,
when I was ever since Team how we spend the chelete chisanka, you know, I don't see you anymore here.
That is why during the day,
No, what do you think of this thing? So let's say the question I was asking was, is it an extra step for no reason for these players to buy a MLS Pili and then maybe go to Europe? Is it necessary for them to go to the MLS first, and then also does this help Bafana?
Okay. This step for them to go to the MLS, I see it as a step forward right now. Now it's in the public eye. Everyone is talking about it. So it means they're gonna get more eyes on them. You understand? To see their quality and what they're capable of. Understand? You get other African players, what do? They mostly go to the Premier League and what Spanish leagues through League One.
Yeah.
They play they are trained at League One with smaller teams there in League One. You get the likes of Nicolas Pepe, he played for Lille, you understand? Many of them, we can name them. There are many who played at League One, smaller teams. Then they take them there, you understand? So they can use it as their way of going there to Europe. Since well now it is in the public eye, people are going to be watching it, you understand? Because of big players are also going there. So they'll want to check those big players, how are they performing? While watching those big players, they see there's a certain player there who's causing problems there. Who is this player? Where does he come from? Let's try him this side. You understand? For them now, I'm talking about now, it's good for them because of it. Understand? It's exposure. You understand? Because I feel the Europeans right now are no longer watching South African players here in PSL. You understand? Because you can see about it. When last did our player go abroad? Go to England and all that. It clearly shows their scouts no longer come here and check. Because they can't produce quality, and even our national team is not performing. So nothing attracting them this side. Understand? But when it comes to Bafana, them going to play there along with the big players that are going there. We must bear that in mind. More players are going are still going to go there to the MLS. They are world class. They may be finished, some of them, but they are still world class players. They are still way better than the PSL players. Understand? So for them to go there and compete with them, it's a step forward for them. It's good experience for them. Understand? And it's going to improve Bafana. That's my.
Okay.
That's how I see.
No, I hear you. Let me read some of the comments. Then we'll get back into it. As running the warm up. Why was Blom struggling in the PSL and shines in the MLS? MLS is far better than the PSL. Let's see. They have 10 times better resources. My problem with MLS is that there's no team gets relegated. But the tax in MLS is huge. MLS is a good league for our PSL players, language and style of play. It's a good step. We are a Europe. We have many young players in Europe, but our national team coach tends to overlook them. Sizwe, Dumelang, thank you for the footballs. MLS is 16 in the world and PSL is ranked 31 in the world. The MLS has long proven to be elite. Example, Pulisic and Dax before Messi arrived. Not to say the PSL is bad. Nikki says, bring courageous guests now. Jump on, Nikki. Let's not discredit leagues because that are better than the PSL just because they're not Europe. Duff, thank you for joining me. Europe has such bad contracts with unfair wages for African players who are looking to break through. The PSL is getting heated. It's okay for them to go to the MLS. Honestly, they get the feel. Europe is not the private school of soccer money. Money that those leagues is better, is way better than less. Butari, welcome. I'm good. It's good for them to get a feel of playing away from home. Dimsani Zuma to the birds, Komphela's cooking. Like the 20-team thing, my brother, will improve the football a lot. Khoza, I'm going to come back to you. I wanna bring this now locally. Chiefs let go of Blom. Now we need a midfielder. We could have had Blom in the midfield if only they had paid him more, yada, yada. We know the story. I don't want to get into it. And Mailula, we see the way Mailula is and how he's playing, how he played at Sundowns and that he could have been the future of Sundowns and things like that. Stellenbosch, 19-year-old centre back, maybe he grows and does whatever. Shouldn't these PSL clubs be doing more to keep hold of these types of players? Because now it seems that the PSL is the place for older players and guys who are return soldiers. What do you think of that?
You're right. They should be doing something. But then that something, in my opinion, is that the PSL, when Njabulo Blom leaves, another Njabulo Blom must be reproduced. That's the way I see it. That is how you ensure that Chiefs does not run out of youngsters and the league does not become a 32-year-old man league. The reason why MLS is ranked, the PSL is ranked 31, is because I was listening to somebody talk about our league.
Yeah,
they were doing a review of the African leagues.
Okay,
apparently we are the third biggest league in Africa after Egypt, Morocco, then it's us. Do you know how much time he spent on our league assessing it?
5
in
minutes.
That 30 minutes video? No, you are 2 minutes 2 minutes extra. He spent 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I was so hurt when it's like, oh no, there's a league, South African Premier Soccer League. Now because even the information is not even updated that he was reading. He referred to us as the Premier Soccer League. We are the DSTV League now, But then you see, that's the thing. Right now, we are going to get eyeballs when it comes to young talent because we are sending them to America. Tebogo is right. Other African countries go through League One, Italy, and all those things. MLS is our route. We must be proud of that. MLS is our route. But then, what is it's like that's it, who's the next young player who's gonna replace Onwethu? There is no structure, guys. And we were talking about this thing that there is no conveyor belt. There's no conveyor belt. And this time we are moving from the national team. We are talking about the league. This thing poster ya cheaper, that one that says it's looking for a certain player. It's embarrassing in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing in my opinion, because what are your scouts doing when you can't find the talent?
Couldn't even scout DDC.
Exactly. You look at their DDC. I mean, you can take somebody from there. The fact that you can't take anybody from DDC, cancel it.
Yeah.
The fact that clubs can't go to DDC and say, okay, you were playing nicely the past 2 seasons, come decide. The fact that they can't do that, it must be scrapped. Everybody now must take their CV. We must start looking for jobs now, like in corporate, where we must take our CVs to the clubs. These clubs must have a conveyor belt of young talent into the first league, young talent into the first league.
What do you say of this thing of, here we sit with Chiefs, for example, we're sitting with Chiefs. They finally have somebody in Blom where you can start the conveyor belt. Blom is young, he's 22, he plays for Chiefs 3, 4, 5 years. You blood in the next person, you've got the conveyor belt. But now we sit in a situation where Kaizer Chiefs, for example, got rid of a 22-year-old who could have who was playing regularly for the team, and it could have been the next up, right? And now you've got 28, 29, 30, 32-year-olds within that team now, and that's meant to be a step forward. Why, man, aren't these... I don't know how to ask the question. Why don't these teams care for this?
Because it demands them to actually work hard. It demands... Guys, I'm sorry. I love the PSL. I love the PSL, but then the things they are doing screams lazy incompetence. Because if we were to be fair with this, you guys you're complaining about the lack of youngsters in your team. Guys, Mjabulo Blom was not supposed to be the only person in that conversation.
Yeah.
Already the time after the ban was lifted, there was supposed to be another young player who's gonna give Njabulo Blom a run for his money. But now Njabulo Blom got so much game time that even people overseas were like, this boy is good. But that's the thing without having options. You're right. It's a difficult one to answer, because it also leads back to the talent which is required in the team, the style of play, Sometimes right now Chiefs wants to improve, We don't know what their plans are for the youth, for the development and all that. But then currently what it looks like is that they want to be back in the title conversation, So right now it goes back to that thing, who's currently hot, who can help us, When you sign a player, you're looking for those things. You say, potentially if I sign Dumisani Zuma, will Moroka Swallows be able to play top 8, consistently play top 8? You look at those things. So the 28-year-old and the 30-year-old, it's that kind of conversation. Like, okay, we don't have youngsters right now, but then who is currently gonna push us into that conversation? League title, while we can now focus on the league. That's the other thing I realized, that sometimes it's not that they don't want to sign young players, but then it's the pressure that comes with it. I was listening to one of the guys, the scouts and development something, Yako Saudi, one of the teams Yako Saudi. He was saying those things like, it's not that we don't want to promote young players, but then currently we have a mission that will allow us to have time to scout properly. So now I'm being lenient with the 32-year-olds, because I had that and got me thinking like, okay, maybe that's why. But then there was supposed to be somebody who was giving Njabulo Blom the run for his man, Yeah.
Okay. Let me bring in Undlala. Now we sit in a situation where now Chiefs, they sat with a player. There was a player right there who could have been the future of the club. We've got Ukese Mailula, who is, the way we were looking at Mailula was that, you know what, he's going to be next up. He's learning from Abo Shalulile, Abo Zwane, all those people. He's learning from them. Then he's going to step in, and it's going to be the next progression of the club. Why then are these teams letting these guys go so early, or not fighting to keep these guys, and rather Bayolanda some older guys to come and play for the team instead of Guti Nyazi for the next 4 or 5 years? I've got a guy right here. Why Baba Yega Baham?
The only reason that teams are letting go of my young players early is just because of money. So they know Guti. For instance, maybe they know Guti. If Philadelphia is offering Stellenbosch maybe 30 million, and the Sundowns maybe was offering a 15 million. So obviously, Sterling Punch is gonna take the highest bidder, which is if it is, and not thinking about he play, which okay, this player is still young, so he play and they don't like. Many teams here, they don't really focus on developing the next player. If the current best player leaves, if the current best player leaves, they're just probably gonna buy another player. For instance, yes, Kaizer Chiefs they did let go of Ublom, but there's still Uzwane there. He's looking, is promising Uzwane. Uzwane is gonna take that role, but I won't be amazed to see Uzwane going next season, maybe following Unjabulo Blom, because of they don't believe in developing these players. They just want to send players for the sake of we are just gonna receive money from these big teams from Europe because of no team here locally is gonna afford these players, or we won't be able to sell our players in Mamelodi Sundowns. So why not we send them to MLS or maybe Europe? So it's one of those things our teams they don't do. They just sell players without producing the next star. So they are just gonna sell. Even look now, there's no pillars, but they are not even trying to. They're not even trying to get the next billiard. We know who billiard might have failed, but try to get the next billiard. Two billiard maybe. On my matches, it was not good, but there was a season Bilad was playing. Get to Bilad, there's Ukaping, there's about rowing woman, but in the sense they still have fans, they still want to compete. How are you going to compete well as we are just letting players go without replacing those ones? So teams are just my teams they are just letting players go. Look at him. Let me just say Ajax. I'm gonna make example. Look at why Ajax got relegated. Ajax let go of Abokamo Pilat, Katsande, Maluleke,
Manyama, Clayton Daniels.
Julian Surero, but they didn't have a plan of producing the next players. The ones that are gonna continue. So they got relegated, and Amsterdam decided to pull off their sponsors. Now they are Cape Town Spurs. It's one of those things. They don't think for the future here. They don't think for the future. They just do. Like we saw it, my teams, even Kaizer Chiefs. Let him go off of Bernard Park. Who's the next Bernard Park? Because of Bernard Park is one of the best players who Chiefs all time. They don't have the replacement. Like Bernard Park is playing there who Galaxy, but Chiefs. But he left Chiefs with a void. Look at Unokovic. Chiefs sold Unokovic just for nothing. And then they got a West striker. So they can't. Their scouting network now, my teams it's very poor. Even Abo Orlando Pirates, they can't replace some players after selling them. Now Sundowns after selling players, they can't replace them. But yes, they might win the league, but some other things are hidden there with Sundowns. Now they can't replace players. They just wanna buy here locally. Buying local doesn't make sense. Why don't you produce your players? So Sundowns now have been surviving. My players my team. They don't have replacement, but they're just looking to buy. What we call development is a player is multi-choice that is going to emulate a past player. That is development, but you cannot sell a player and then go and we are a player similar to that. That's not development. That's kind of wasting money as a team. Look at Real Madrid, for instance. Real Madrid is letting go of Casemiro. They brought in Kamaville. They know who to cross. No, it's not gonna last. They brought in Bellingham. They brought in who's this player? Chuchumen. They know very well. So our teams they are not learning anything. Our teams are just doing things for the sake of money. They are not learning things when it comes to development. Yes, we know we are not developing players enough. So our teams are not learning anything. Like as a football owner, you should be taking notes from the likes of Real Madrid. Like, why don't you just copy and paste what they are doing? Yeah, so it's one of those things. Our teams now, Yeah.
No, I hear you, my brother. Ricky Khanye, I'm going to use the Blom example because when Blom left Chiefs, I believe he had played 2 years for Kaizer Chiefs. He was properly inside. He was an experienced player while very young. I'd imagine that Chiefs, at the state that we were at, you'd want to bring somebody and say, guys, we're going to build our team around this guy and we're going to fight as hard as possible not to let him leave, for example, or we're going to try and make him as happy as possible for him to stay because this could be the future of our club. But now we're seeing those type of players, Abu Kesias Mailula, who had good, 2 seasons under Sundowns, and those guys getting let go instead of these clubs saying, guys, if we want to be serious about this stuff, let's keep these guys. Why are our clubs just so willy-nilly letting people go?
I think it's about money, nothing else. It's about money, and then they have, as you guys were saying here, they must be able to replace them. You understand? There are a lot of players in South Africa. You understand? Lower level. If they go to Amakasi and all that, they'll find players. There's always players there. You know yourself. You know where there are players, the Makas and all that.
Yeah.
As the previous speaker has spoken, they are lazy to do this job.
Okay.
Understand? They are lazy to do this job. Back then, you'd hear stories where a certain player was picked up at go, that's what that's so straight to the PSL. You understand? Because of they saw the quality, they had an eye for talent, for raw talent. Understand? Such things must happen. You understand? It's not a problem to let a player go, but then it's a problem if you can't replace them. If you are not taking any steps to replace them. You understand? If you have a player in the pitch who is your best player, you must already have someone who you are cooking on the bench. You understand? You look at the teams like Ajax Amsterdam. You understand? They always lose key players, but they still compete in the Champions League with the big guns. You look at the Benficas, you look at the FC Portos, and they still compete with the big guns. Every season, they look into their teams, they take their key players, they don't have a problem. They just come back next season and beat you with a new player. You understand? That's how it shows that it is not impossible. It is not impossible. This thing is doable. So why us here are we complaining? Why are we complaining? It means there's something that we are not doing right. There's something that Ajax, Benfica, Porto, and other teams, there's something that they are doing right that we are not doing right. So we must look into it. If it means going there and watching their method of scouting players, of developing players, let it be. It means it can work for us. We see that this thing, so we might just go there and copy what they're doing because of it seems like we don't have the solution.
Okay.
That's how I think.
No, I hear you, Vutari. I see the developing part, but my question more goes to, now you've got these players in your team, you've integrated them, they've played well for you, you can see that there's something there. Isn't it weird that these clubs are not thinking, man, I should try my best to keep a hold of this man so that my team can do better, the sponsorship, the what. Why is it that the first choice, and I understand teams that are at the bottom and I understand smaller teams, but like big teams like Sundowns, big teams like Chiefs, why are they letting these guys go willy-nilly without even having plans for them? What is causing this?
Hey, how are you, man? And the
I'm good. Hey, sorry, man.
Man, look, for me, but I'll first start saying big ups to Gavin Hunt for making Blom a CDM. Blom was our natural defender, right back, left back, so big ups to him. We've been bashing him for long, but he made Blom what he is now.
And he loved Blom.
Moving from that, yes, it's a bit weird, but I'm thinking, are we not too hard on our PSL teams?
Okay.
look at it this way. I'll also beg to differ with Inlel, if I'm quoting his name right. It's busy saying teams are not developing players, or we're saying they are selling, but we forget that if you're able to sell, that's why you're able to buy more experienced players, a lot of them. Yes, an idea was to keep Ublom, but you see, when a player is on form, they're asking him, man. They are requesting so much money that maybe at that point in time, Chiefs is not willing to pay that amount, or Sundowns is not willing to pay that amount of money. Same as Ublom, maybe he moved from 70,000. Now he wants 700,000. He wants 500,000.
Yeah.
Maybe 200,000 was going to be reasonable to them. So it's a matter of once a player or an agent. So this we might blame. For me, I want to differ a bit. We might come and blame a player, or we might go and blame a team saying that they don't want to keep the players. But the truth is, the problem is an agent.
Okay.
I'm going to use this as with the issue of Ublom. Chiefs was negotiating for Ublom, but find that the agent found a better deal for him as an agent, not for Blom. Yes, Blom is flourishing, but the cut for an agent was too much that maybe the sale was high, the signing on fee was very high, and at Chiefs he was not going to get so much of a signing on fee because it's an extension of a contract. So definitely an agent will look after their pocket. That's what.
Hey, I think you're cutting there. I think we've lost Vutlari there.
700,000, knowing very well that he's negotiating with a club somewhere else where he will get a better signing on fee and all that. So sometimes the problem it's not the team.
But then, from what I heard from what they were speaking about with Blom, it might seem like it was unreasonable, but then when you look at the bigger picture of saying Blom was 22 at the time, 22, 21 at the time, he could be your stalwart. He's already played 2 seasons. He could be your stalwart for another 5, 6, 7 seasons. You could have him for 2 seasons and sell him after that. Isn't it a bit short-sighted from the teams then to get rid of him, and then now we're cycling through midfielders? Now King Abo Alexander came in and left. Abo Nange came in and left. Now we've got Castillo and Castillo. Then there's Zwane. Like, isn't that a bit more, man? Shouldn't they have looked into those type of things too, or as a thought into what? Yes, he's asking for this much now, but the money we've spent or we're going to spend trying to replace this guy, man, it's not worth it.
As I'm saying, the problem is not the clubs. Yes, it's weird that it's happening. Trust me, if you can look at the manipulation of agents when it comes to signing of players. So a Chiefs can compete with an MLS team when it comes to signing on fees. And remember, the signing on fees, an agent get a cut. So if Chiefs will say to Ublom, who will extend your contract, the agent will get 200,000 a cut of the signing on fee because it's an extension. Comes an MLS team and say, as an agent, you'll get a million rand for signing on fee. Trust me, an agent will try by all means to sabotage that move of staying at Chiefs for the player to go to MLS just for the sake of that signing on fees. So I've done a bit of research. I promise you, if you can follow those things up, you'll realize that a lot of deals has been messed up by AMA agent. And last time we spoke about this, where we have Umodi that wanted to go to Kaizer Chiefs, but the agent didn't want him there. Modi had to find the agent for him to fulfill his wishes. So we have a lot of agent manipulation. But at the same time, we're also saying that teams are not developing enough players. Chiefs is developing enough players. Are they getting enough time? Are we? Our PSL now is way too different from MLS. It's easy for Blom to compete in the MLS. Yes, MLS can say it's better quality, but the competition-wise, it's way different from the PSL. I mean, the PSL is very competitive.
Okay.
So if we take Blom to Al Ahly, Blom could have struggled before he gelled in. Get it? So it's all about the competition when it comes to league. Yes, a league can be ranked very high, but the competition there is non-existent. So we have to look at all those things before we blame our South African teams and all that. But other than that, for me, I blame teams, but I don't blame so much when it comes to keeping players, because I feel like it's time we as fans we equipped ourselves when it comes to agents manipulation when it comes to the game. There's a lot of players that have been manipulated by agents, and agents, they don't look at where you want to go and which team is best for you when it comes to game time and all that. They look at the money.
Okay,
Look,
no, I hear you.
Let me take a swag player from Royal AM. I don't know. They can take Gabuza to Sundowns. They know that Gabuza might not play it. But for the fact that Sundowns has money, they'll get a bigger sign-on fee. That's what they do. So it's not entirely about teams, but it's all about the agent. So that's the research I did a bit.
Okay, no, I hear you. I think at this point, Khoza and Lela, I'm gonna have to let you guys go for a little to just get some new guys on. I know the rotation isn't always that good, but I'll just make some space. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. As usual, you guys are my starting lineup. You know, let me bring in. Okay. Let me read some of these comments and then we can carry on with the convo. Guys, let's not let our love or respect for Europe blind us from the benefit of the MLS. The USA has good athletes, even if they're not as good. Hey, guys, what's happening? Okay, there we go. What about Scandinavia? That's also a route to Europe. Chiefs have too many youngsters. That's why they brought all the players to stabilize the team. Happened Kamasango. We're crying over nothing, guys. They could have built a team around Pule XTN, and they did what Chiefs always does. Guys, let's face it, Sundowns knows how to sign players. Look for these 4 players they have signed. They didn't even go for Masego, but Chiefs are celebrating Modi at Chiefs. Chiefs scouting is swag. Their legends can't scout. Chiefs as a replacement for Blom in Zwane Jr. Sundowns are going for young players, while Downs are going for youngsters. Mdu is not ready. Sundowns replaced Kekan and Mabunda like they were not in the first team. They didn't even miss Shalulile. Teams that developed up Borussia Dortmund and Ajax, not Real Madrid. Let's see, I can't wait for the season to start because we've talked a lot, man. I want to see this. I think Chiefs management needs an advisor. They said the same Kamdao, Kamvala, Tepelo Masego, Hawks and Chiefs, no competition. Chiefs are developing freestylers. Yeah, we want to trend on TikTok, guys. We don't care about the league. Gotcha, no stress. Okay, let me go back to Tebza. I want to broaden the conversation a little bit from this. Are we seeing a resurgence in young players getting scouted and taken? What is causing these players to get found? Lyle Foster didn't do well at Pirates and didn't get time at Pirates, but all of a sudden he's gone to Burnley. Some of these guys going straight to the MLS and things like that. Are we seeing a resurgence of South African players being wanted in the world?
Yeah, I think so, because for them to take those players with us not seeing their full qualities, it means they see something in them. They see the qualities that we don't see. Understand? So they see what they can fit in their system, in their way of playing. You understand? Because remember, if you have an eye for a player, of good players, you can spot a player that nobody sees. Then they'll be asking you, why this player, why that? And whenever you can see, you can easily polish the mistakes that he does. They can easily be polished, and then he can be a good player. You understand?
Yeah.
So it means we are behind Rena self spotter the good players. We just want to see all of a sudden a good player. You understand? So it takes that. Let's take, for instance, Pep Guardiola. You understand?
Yeah.
They like recently they like saying he buys big players. Look at those players. Before they come there, they were just ordinary players, but he makes them world class. People are not aware that Pep Guardiola actually makes players to become world class players. Understand? You look at the Nathan Ake, you look at the John Stones, you look at we didn't know who's this defender.
Bangakanji.
Not Akanji, even him. The one that's always playing, he's even one of the captains of Manchester City.
It's fine. We'll come back to it. Yeah,
you understand? So those players, the Grealishes, he was signing them, but then he struggled when he get there. He wasn't worth that 100 million when he got there. But then he's coming all right. He's building him. He's cooking him. So now it means the Europeans, they have this eye for players. You understand?
Yeah.
We must be in line with them. You understand? So our players who are going that side, it means they have something that we don't see. They have something. You won't go there if you're not good enough. There's something that they see in you, and then they can use it. It means you are good enough to go there. They see it.
You know, in my head, I have a conspiracy theory that there's something with the MLS and the PSL. I think there's some sort of deal or something, because some of these moves are happening. These moves are shocking. And I think for Blom, for example, I don't think Blom went and looked for St. Louis City. I think Chiefs did. You know, I think Sundowns, but we'll get there. Let me ask you, Butare.
No, I also,
yes.
So. Sorry, I also think so. I also think so. But then I didn't want to touch it. Understand? Okay. I also think so because I think Chiefs were scared that Blom would go to a rival team. So they wanted. Plus, St. Louis is being coached by our former legend. It was easier for them to just say, hey, don't you want this player? Come and take a look at him. If you like, it was an easy one. The deal wasn't hard to do. It just went smooth. It went, and he couldn't say no. Who would say no to go to USA, my guy?
Yeah,
he would go.
Yeah. Hey, well, Dr. Ford back in the day, but it's fine. Mutari, same question. Are we seeing a resurgence of South African players being wanted abroad? And what is bringing this on, especially for players that don't have that much time in the PSL or haven't played that much in the PSL?
Look, for me, one of the first time I agree with Utebza. You always on opposite side. But I think there's so much talent in South Africa that we don't properly look at it, and don't properly give it time and polish it enough. Where you find your teams in Belgium, because look, I feel like South Africa, the route to Europe was supposed to be Belgium, maybe Portugal.
Portugal, yeah.
Those are the our players fit in very well, and the type of play they play there, it fits in with our style. But we don't have your Pep Guardiola's kind of caliber coaches in South Africa, where it takes an ordinary player and make them a world-class player. I don't know when in your panel I was discussing with someone, and I said to them, look what Sundowns is doing. They took Neo Maema as just an ordinary midfielder. It's just a Bloemfontein Celtic, an ordinary player, and made him a beast that he is now. Then everyone we are talking about him now, and we are saying he's signing ordinary players. Signing an ordinary player is not a problem, but the problem is how do you make that person fit in your style and become the greatest player that you can be. And that's what Sundowns is doing now. So in Europe, we have a lot of that, and they can easily scout young players that they have talent. Ulai Foster, they saw that he has talent, but at Pirates, for me, I have a problem with Pirates. Pirates do not believe in young.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Pirates do not believe in young players. Radio Pan is a very good player. He's been out. There's a lot of players. Pirates do not believe in young players, but Chief believes in young players. But the problem, they want the young players to carry the team. So those are the two things that our local clubs need to fix. Then we have Sundowns that they can take any player and convert that player to become a noticeable player. So it's one of those things where in Europe, they can easily take a life roster who's 17-year-old. They give him enough time.
Yeah.
But in South Africa, my man, and also I also want to blame our fans. We are impatient, and we know that clubs in South Africa are run by us fans. If Shabalala can make a mistake tomorrow, we want his head. We forget that he's a young player. But tomorrow, the next game, he makes a good pass. He's a good player.
Yeah.
We inconsistent. But in Europe, you have your Grealish. When he got to, as Tibbs said, when he got to Man City, he was struggling.
Yeah.
He was a good player. Yes, he was able to check players on, but he was struggling. And no one was reaching that player. Pep was patient with the guy. Look at where he is. Phil Foden. We can mention so many names. So our problem in South Africa, even if teams want to use young players, we are able to bash young players. We have Unjabulo Ngobo. As much as Ngozinphile Ngobo supposedly, as much as that season he carried Kaizer Chiefs, he has so much talent, he has the brain, but fans, because the following season was not performing so well, we wanted his head. What happened to say Coach Atazwane? Just try to give the boy small yana time until his confidence grow and he can continue with the Ngozinphile Ngobo that we want. Immediately want the player out. So for me, I think it's us the fans to blame partly, and a bit of teams where they don't have the backbone. It's like if you choose, like last time you said, a club have to have a backbone. If you could choose Atazwane, stay with Atazwane, no matter what the fans say.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing as to the players. You choose a young player.
My only issue with the clubs, for me, in this type of thing is we are rotating players that aren't doing anything. So even when we speak about experience, we speak about, this guy has experience, he's been in the PSL, what. And you look at the track record, like let's look at Kaizer Chiefs, for example, over the last 9 years, right? There were a lot of quote unquote experienced guys who didn't do much. Don't have a trophy to their names, we had one Champions League run. So I fail to understand when clubs say that they want experience, but even when the experience is not working, the best time to play the youngsters would be now, because nobody's expecting Arthur. Well, last season, no one was expecting Arthur to win the league because Sundowns is doing so well. You get what I mean? So I disagree a little bit with that, because I think as fans, we are very patient to a degree, if that makes sense. But also these clubs are not creating structures where the youngsters can thrive, if that makes sense. So like you said, Mdu has to come in and carry Kaizer Chiefs. My Lula never had to carry Sundowns because there's a structure there. And I feel like we are, the clubs themselves hang these players out to dry and then blame us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That I do agree with you. As I'm saying, the problem with it's to allow players, because Ungobo carried Kaizer Chiefs. And then fans, we end up having that idea that Ungobo, he's that guy that when we needed someone to take us from Egypt, he's there. The whole following season, because he was still young, he makes those mistakes. We end up patching him. Do you get it? So I think we are passionate fans that sometimes they're not realistic with what they see in the field. You know?
Okay.
We take and also what kills our football is the rivals. I think our players also, they need to get out of social media as well. As much as I'm saying the team needs to have a backbone, because you have Mdu, he dances on top of the ball, He make a good pass after dancing. Chiefs fans will say he's a good player.
Yeah.
Orlando fans will bash him, and Sundowns fans will bash him, and he goes and looks at that and he wants to change his game. Instead of saying, the coach saying, okay, you play this way, let's improve at what you play, you can eliminate a few things. So those are the things that we need to look at. But you get to Europe. Europe is a different ball game.
Yeah. Okay, I want to come back. I'm going to come back on that point. I'm going to come back on that point.
This guy is
I think we lost each other. I'm going to come back on that point. Oh, Lyrical Assassin, where'd you go, my brother? Gotcha, welcome to the show, bro. How are you doing? Finally.
Hey, finally. Hey.
No, Nati, I want to see we say good DDC Saglona, Sagchampis. I want to ask you the question, the bigger question I was asking is are we seeing a resurgence of South African players getting wanted more by international clubs, not just European, international clubs? And what is causing this resurgence?
Okay. One thing that's causing it is the fact that now there's social media. Okay. We can now market players easier and package them in a better way than before. So even when before we didn't even have enough players who are young enough to even to package them properly and sell them. Blom is a good example because he started in the first team play when he was about 18, I think, 17, 18. So we have his package when you create a package of what to sell on Blom it's good enough and equates other players around the world. Our players normally start at 17, 18, 19, you know. All the players that we are talking about that are in Europe, Postler, it's all the players who started a bit earlier. Yeah. So we can use them. I'm happy that that the rest of the world is even looking our way. Our players have not been doing well, and it's because of our attitude as fans. Okay. Attitude of the owners of the teams, attitude of the PSL and SAFA. The attitude has right now we are debating whether MLS is a good league to go to or not. Yet the quality of coaches and players that they can bring in MLS, they can pay high amount of money to have good quality coaches. They can bring high amount of money to go to Europe and say, guys, we are your feeder team now. Can you bring us your best technical teams and development coaches and all that this side so that we can have a better league, you know? The league is well invested and it has the money to continue bringing the right quality of technical ability in that league. But we are sitting here, we're saying our MLS is not yet our league is terrible. We are Kosafa team beat South Africa so easily, yet they don't even have a proper league that side. So the quality of the technical support that's required in the PSL that we don't have, the young players can get that when they go out of South Africa.
But while I have you here, I want to ask you the question that I asked in the previous round. Why is it that certain teams that should be trying to go for everything are so fine with letting these players go, especially the younger players? So you say like a Blom, he started at 18 at Chiefs, he's a 4-year veteran. You could still build around him a bit more, but they chose to let him go. Why do we have that attitude in the PSL?
No, it is a good thing to do that. We have to understand where are we. In South Africa, we have a lot of talent. We have a problem with structure. We have a problem with developing players. For Blom to develop to become a Dr. Kumalo, he needs to get out there. For Tao to become a better player, he needed to get out there. You know.
But I mean more specifically. I mean more specifically for Chiefs. So let's not. I don't want to talk about it from the point of view of the player and what's good for them. I'm saying Kaizer Chiefs has a diamond right here. You get what I mean? And we've struggled for years and we finally have somebody there and we can maybe build around this person and maybe get back to where Chiefs is meant to be. But it seems as though the money was way more important than the success of the team, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. This is why they did this. Their Chiefs have invested too much in their development. So they're creating a chain of a promise of the players who are now. If you remember the last 3 or 4 years, how many players from the MTC have gone all the way to the first team? But they then need to see what happens after I play for 3 seasons or 2 seasons in the first team. What happens to me? Do I then become a permanent player for Chiefs, or am I sold outside? They need to keep on creating little holes so that Zwane, the one that we're seeing now, come in. Then we'll say, Yazin, I'm coming in to play to replace Blom. As much as they don't play in the same way, in the same position, but he's now the next boy we're looking up to.
But wouldn't you trade kind of Estebe? I would gladly trade Estebe or Mart, Alexander, Enange, or anybody of those guys to make sure that when Zwane comes in, he's going to play next to Blom. So Blom would be a 21, 22-year-old that's 4 or 5 years deep with experience, and he's still young. Then I can bring in Zwane to play next to him. Why would I get rid of Blom and then try Cole Alexander or try Obosteb, Obo Mart, all these guys that we've cycled through, even just financially? They've probably spent a lot more trying to plug a hole like that than they could have saved keeping him.
I understand your perspective, but it's wrong. And you need to hear it boldly. Let me explain why. Yeah. When you bring a lot of young players together, they cannot run a whole season.
But Blom is not young. He's 5 years deep. He's 5 years. He's 5 years. He's experienced.
Wait. You ask now. I'm giving an answer. Blom is not a young player. Blom would be an experienced player. You know, he's gone to the Champions League. He's done almost a lot of things. Yes, fine. But you cannot ask a 20-year-old to look up to a 24-year-old. In our South African context, both these players are youngsters.
Yeah, but what's causing that? That's what I'm saying.
Wait. What should have happened is that a Blom and a Katanda play together. Compete. Then when Katanda leaves his pool, retires, already as one and another older player is there to balance when the players, because these 2 young players cannot run the whole season. And we've seen this in South Africa. What happened to Ngobo? Ngobo is now, we don't know, he's on, he's off, he's injured, his father died, and other things happen in his life. So you cannot depend on this. Ajax Cape Town are a good example of that. They always showed promise but could not be consistent because of having too many youngsters. Chiefs right at the moment have a lot of youngsters and did not have experienced players in the right positions. Hence they had to go call or average old players who can at least be consistent in the position, but be there enough to the young players that's promising can come in and cameos and develop. It's that balance that is tricky, and for Chiefs, that's what they need to do. Unlike in Sundowns, where Mailula comes in and they ask him to do just one thing. Almost Zwane came in, he played as a number 10, he played as a defensive midfielder, he played as a central midfielder, three or four positions. Even Blom himself played many positions. But Mailula was asked to play false 9 and to score. That's it. So,
okay, yeah. No. Finish your point. I want to bring in a lyrical assassinship. Finish your point.
It's in that context that Chiefs is different because they needed to balance too many things. You know, that's why they're bringing in older players. The older players that they brought in now, or Alexander Cole, they didn't even have to. They didn't pay them enough, Kahle, with the young players that were there. That's why the Chiefs were not consistent, because you need older players to do that for a league, for a league title, and then after that, you can then say, I've got these players who've played, young players who've played 10, 12, 13 games a season. So next season we can add on to that. Yeah,
I slightly disagree. I slightly disagree, but Let me bring in a lyrical assassin quickly. Lyrical assassin, are we seeing a resurgence? How are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, and you?
No, I'm good. So I wanted to ask you, same question that I've been asking. Are we seeing a resurgence of these youngsters getting bought and teams liking the PSL? And what is causing this newfound love of our PSL guys?
Okay. Hi, thank you, host, man. Thanks for actually picking. Was doing its things. I just want to say hello to all my fellow brothers on the panel and the people in the comments. I love the show. So the way I see it, my man, this is just a false. It's Khoza, we're shy. This is just as a false flashbang.
Yeah.
Because our league is very poor. It's very poor, our league. In terms of, I'm not trying to say, host, our league is bad, but in terms of facilities, host, in terms of the stadiums that we have, in terms of what we've produced in the past, our league is very poor because it's very it's run terribly. Okay, it's run terribly. We are very behind. We are very behind in terms of football. Just in football IQ, understanding the game, understanding where the game is at. This is why I always say that watching international football is not us shunning our national teams, our local teams, but it's us learning where is football going. Yeah. Because now, if you look at our teams, except for Sundowns, you see Sundowns is not just a super team because they just became super. Yeah. It's a super team because a person like Patrice Motsepe, he goes outside of the country and sees what is working there and he brings it to South Africa. Chiefs, I'm a Chiefs supporter. Chiefs is still going from the fumes of the 70s because Chiefs used to be a Real Madrid. You know, Chiefs used to get the best of the best. Chiefs never used to develop. People are talking about development. Chiefs never used to develop. When Chiefs was formed by Kaizer 11, he took the best of each team and he formed a super team, which was Kaizer Chiefs, which was the most loved team, and we used to win cups because we had the best players. Yeah. But now, when Chiefs started to grow year after year because of the love that we had and the fan base, we used to just want a certain player and we get him, you know? But if you look at Sundowns or Sushine and Piano, they used to play football. Even with Patrice now funding them, they used to develop. They used to play football. They had a style of play, host. Chiefs have never had a style of play, and now they're stumbling in the dark, host. I just wanted to address these things before going to the Blom situation. You know, we are lost. We are very lost in terms of now a modern winger, host. We can go here into the PSL and ask what is a modern winger. And we will get a winger from the 80s. He must run down the byline and try
the ball when he gets
put
to
a cross
the
ball
end.
for a number 9, you know? You remember they were calling us Helicopter FC. Yes. Because we were playing old football. Old football. You know? Because now it's almost positionless. The football that is played. Even the goalkeeper must play. And Khanye was ahead of his time. Imagine if we had a prime Khanye now. Khanye was ahead of his time. And it's so unfortunate. The distribution. Khanye could have played the modern football of pressing and playing between the lines because he had the ability. So what I'm trying to say, host, is that we are far behind. The modern winger now cuts in. We have inverted wingers now. And even if we're inverted winger, with the left foot playing on the right, you can still switch with your opposite number and be the traditional winger just to shake things up. The modern number 9, Haaland, is not a 9 that sits in the box. He drops. So the 9 has become a false 9 in a way. He's a 9, but he drops in. Harry Kane. You know, we are so behind. It's scary. in terms of the IQ, because of the people that lead us. The people that are still in charge are people who are in charge in the 70s.
Yeah.
When that football was in their heydays. These people need to step down and move, host.
Okay.
But now moving
Yeah.
now to what you had asked me about Uplom going there. I feel like this is just an anomaly in terms of Uplom. But the second guy that went is from Sundowns, right? The Sundowns guy just went to MLS. Milo. But I feel like Blom opened the door in terms of they were surprised at how good Blom was. And maybe they were like, hey, let's go see. And if I look at Sundowns have players that can go play in the MLS. Because the MLS, Nemzansi, we are very similar. We are very similar in terms of footballing IQ. I've been watching Blom. Blom is playing like a variety, you know, variety, a prime variety. If you go watch Blom playing his game, he's like a prime variety. And then you ask yourself, why couldn't he do this in the PSL? It's not because the PSL, it's because they're in America. Even though they are like us, they are behind, but they are learning. They are buying players of a high caliber. They are getting coaches from Europe who know the type of football. They are developing Bazam, you know, but they're still way behind. They're still way behind. So I think the Blom thing was just an anomaly, but a lot more players are going to go to the MLS. I would go to the MLS if I was still young enough, in a sense, because I feel like we have the technical skills to dominate the MLS. MLS, you know, it's just that they have money. You know, the Blom is earning 500K a month, 500K a month from 50,000.
Yeah,
at Chiefs. You know what I'm saying?
And I want to ask you. I want to ask you on that point. I'm going to ask you the question that I asked in the previous round about.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
I want to ask you the question about the previous round, why aren't teams like Kaizer Chiefs holding on to these players? Why are they letting them go so easily when we know that they could cover positions and do things that we need them for, and they're still young?
Host, my man, I know you're a Chiefs supporter. I've explained Chiefs, the essence of where it comes from, and you understood me as a Chiefs supporter. So Chiefs, my man, is a selling team.
Okay.
Because we don't buy. If you don't buy, by default, you are a selling team. You know? Because back then, like I said, we took the best. When Kaizer formed the team, he took the best. He took the best of those and he formed his 11. And then from there, through goodwill, the best players wanted to come to Chiefs. So there was no us going and chasing these players. But now we have to buy these players.
I could argue, like, for example, Itumeleng Kune sat behind Ron Fernandez, who sat behind Brian Malloy, who was brought into the club very early. I think Kune was 1920 when he started.
But the problem goes with Kune. Kune is an anomaly because Kune was not a keeper. If you look at Kune, if you go to the development,
he was a striker,
he was not playing as a keeper. So Kune, he was an anomaly, which when he went into the goalkeeping position, he excelled, and he still kept the ability to play with his feet. So that was
the only point that I wanted to make was that Ukune was brought in young. Chiefs understood what they had with Ukune, and they were like, you know what? We need to do everything we can in order to make sure that Ukune, I'm sure, could have gone overseas plenty of times, for example, but Chiefs understood that we need him to be what we to be the best that we can be. Why then, when you look at a situation like Uplom, where Chiefs knew that Katsande's leaving, we're not going to have a Katsande anymore. Blom plays in that position. Gavin Hunt has spoken about playing Blom there. He's young. He could be a flagship player for us in the vein of a Kune and all of those guys. Why then let him go and then struggle for the next 2 years, chopping and changing players, instead of going, you know what, this Kaizer Chiefs, we want to win the league, you know?
I know how to answer you, and it's going to hit me and you because we are Chiefs. We are Chiefs.
Give it to me, I'm ready.
But I'm just going to speak plainly and truthfully. It's because when Khanye was there, I feel like management has changed. The people who are developing the players, the people who are whispering in Kaizer and telling Kaizer, this is how we move, they've changed. The thing is, my father, I'm not as knowledgeable as my father, but he used to know who was in what position.
Yes.
But what I can say with a definite is that the people who were under, that Khanye was under during his development have changed. They've changed. Baba Iselenale, and I will prove this by saying, you are now saying, why did we sell Blom when we know that Katsande? We sold Malulega to Sundowns. We sold George Malulega to Sundowns, a person that we were fighting a league title with. And Malulega was the only CDM we had that could play that position. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
How do you sell a person? He's your only player in that position, and he's starting to excel. And then you sell him to Sundowns. And what does Sundowns do? They put him on the bench because they didn't need him. So that tells me, host, that it's management. The people that are there are just running. But you know BEE. You know this guy. Let me just give him this position. It's simple. Oh, Bobby is my son. Bobby must be manager. You know, Khoza Motaung, he's gonna be CEO. Hey, Jessica, she must be the manager. I'm not trying to say that others are failing in their job, but if now that's the mentality that you wanna do, because that's not what Kaizer was doing back then. Back then, he was actually hiring people who had football knowledge. Even the coaches we had, Ted Dimitri, these people had knowledge of football. You know, I think that's why I host. We sold Blom because we sold George Maluleng. It's not. It's a trend. It's a trend. If you don't know that you are holding a diamond in your hand, you will exchange that diamond for a lump of coal.
That's true.
And you won't even know, host. You won't even. And I think that's the problem with Chiefs. The people there in the top structure, host, they don't know anything. They don't know anything. And I feel like now with these sales, they're gonna keep selling now. They're going to keep selling now. I fear for our youngsters because we have very talented youngsters. Our youngsters are very talented. If we can put a structure around them, we can play football. Yeah. But we need to buy, host. Sundowns buys. Sundowns buys. There was that player
here. Nobody wants to.
But remember a few years ago, we wanted, who's that guy? Sundowns even sold him now. It's Uzwane. When he was at Wits. You remember Uzwane at Wits? Uzwane was the hottest property in the PSL. And you know what Uzwane said? The Chiefs team, that fairy tale, he was like, I want Chiefs. He said, I want to go to Chiefs. And Chiefs was like, this guy is too expensive.
Yeah. Even Tico. But let me jump in and just read some comments there, Lyrical Assassin. I'm gonna come back again.
Danko.
Remember my comment last time? I said Sundowns need Mailula to go abroad, not locally. Foster's dad had connections in France, hence he went there from Pirates. We have talent here. It's just that our league itanda makhehla nje. Man, you're sleeping on Reeve. He's the best. Go Chiefs. He deserves captain's armband. My guy, check a player like Palmer at City. I agree Pep can build a beast out of an ordinary player. Lots of players in SA. Chiefs has good players like Duba Guy and Bo Bimenyimana. I tend to disagree, bro. Well-established young players are encouraged to play circus like Mdu. Imagine Tembazwane outside of the PSL shine even more. Leagues, they are selling to one young talent. Cole could have been at Chiefs long ago. But we all know Chiefs as Ntabeling. MLS is using developing SA players to build and brand their league like we did. No, man, in the 90s and early 2000s, developments, Chiefs had the best development. I'm a Paris fan, but damn, man, Kunet did it before Allison, Edison, and Bonoya. Ngocha, Bakfagile, Namsanje, Brian. I see Blom playing EPL next season. I also feel like Blom opened doors. The guy's explaining now knows what he's talking about, right on point. Just have one agent network structure for young players going abroad. Lucas, Benny, Farouk Khan, 100%. We didn't sell Maluleka, but he didn't want to renew. We sold Blom because we let go of Hunt. A lyrical assassin, you went in there. They failed to agree terms for a new contract. Who's that guy talking? He knows football. Maluleka signed a pre-contract with Sundowns. Chiefs never sold him. And the problem with the club since Kaizer Chiefs became 100% owned by Kaizer Motaung. Let me check over on Facebook to see what's happening there. MLS may not be one of the best leagues in the world, but it's still much better than the PSL. Guys, the PSL is the tavern league. You guys can enjoy this poor quality PSL soccer after consuming 4 or 5 beers. Yes, the PSL is a shark in the African football pond, but in world football ocean, the PSL is just a snook. Scar, how are you doing? If one of you is having a problem about Chiefs, he's free to join Sundowns. So let's not do that. All thanks to Njabulo Brom for being a big role model for the Stars. Kaizer Chiefs, 9 years, trophyless with Khanye in the polls. What has his presence benefited the team? He has experience, yes, but just bad experiences since 2012. Old Khanye is just holding back a potential young goalkeeper at Kaizer Chiefs. He did the same thing with Bafana. He kept getting picked based on favoritism and past performances, and that's one of the main reasons why Bafana couldn't qualify for the AFCON, because the selections like Khanye, that was biased and based purely on favoritism, and Chiefs past 2012 glory. Let's see. Sky, watching from Lesotho. Thank you. Players go abroad. You complain when they stay. You say we don't have potential to compete abroad. What do you want? Number 1, Kaizer Chiefs jersey in South Africa. MLS is top. It's just that they're not aggressive. Otherwise, market-wise, MLS is a window to Europe. I agree the US League is not top quality league, but having SA players playing in the USA and Canada could benefit Bafana if they manage to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. If we qualify for the World Cup, then we'll have Bafana players that are used to the environment, conditions, and stadiums of America and Canada, and they can pass down some valuable information to other Bafana players so that they can adapt quicker to the World Cup tournament. Personally, it's a good move for Oluwatuma Khanye, because as a player, he can get out of his comfort zone and improve. And I also expect the MLS to have a major boom now that Messi's there. So it's a good move for SA players going there. I hope they can sign more of our young players abroad. Shout out to Coach Bradley Cornell. His team is top of the log in the MLS. That guy should be brought into Bafana. This is now on Facebook. Okay, guys, I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to ask the panel, let's see, one last question, and then also just ask you guys for your closing statements. Votare, the question is, we mentioned earlier that one of the things that may be killing South African players is that they don't have the mentality to want to go into Europe and play hard and possibly move up in the ranks and, play the game in order to get to the top. How do we make sure that our players start having those type of mentalities to go into not maybe just Europe, but maybe to the top of football anywhere? How do we create that type of situation in South Africa? And your closing statements for tonight.
I think to answer your question straightforward, it's take the players and develop them when they are young to stay in the facilities of Chiefs caliber.
Okay.
That alone is good enough. Then we get players that are moving as they are young. They're playing for Moroka. When they turn 20, 21, 22, they go to Sundowns, Chiefs, and Orlando Pirates to find the best places to be in and earn good monies. Then they're not gonna want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, let's not run away from the reality that South Africa, the league is one of the good leagues, and we have the best 3 teams that pay good money. Okay. So them paying good money is, if I'm from Limpopo, or I'm being scouted to be at Chiefs when I'm 20.
Yeah.
I think it's about reaching the dream early. So, but if you get them young and develop them from a young age, have proper facilities across the country where players will grow up seeing this thing, and then their final destination won't be in South Africa. But because now we get them late, And now when they get to Kaizer Chiefs, they get to Orlando Pirates. It's where their dreams end, guys. Let's be honest. It's as a young boy playing for Moroka. I want to play for Kaizer Chiefs. I want to play for Sundowns. When you get there, you've reached what your dreams were, and then you're not gonna crave to go anywhere. So the quick answer is get them young, develop them young, have proper facilities across the country so that they're exposed to these things. Then at least now they will want to go abroad because they won't be wanting to see the special Kaizer Chiefs Naturena. Then, so that's what I think we should do. My final statement is there's certain players in South Africa that they can go to MLS. I don't mind.
Okay.
But there's proper quality players here that don't deserve to go to MLS. I can hear we're saying MLS is better than the PSL. But I want to differ slightly. Yes, it might be better, but the exposure to Europe, I think if you play for Kaizer Chiefs in the Champions League, Sundowns in the Champions League, you have much better exposure to go to your big five leagues, your La Liga, your League One, League Two. I mean, not your League One, your Serie A. Those are the leagues that I think our top players need to go to, where there's a bit of competition. Because, guys, we're speaking of Nigeria. We're saying, yeah, Nigeria's their way to Europe is League One. Because that's where they want to be. But we can't go to MLS. How many players are exploited from the MLS to the big teams or to the big leagues? None of them. So let's be honest with ourselves. Yes, it's good for the players. Earning 500,000 it's not something very big. In South Africa, our players earn that much. So it's not about the money, but it's about the exposure to the biggest leagues in the world. So I would say, in case of South Africa, the PSL having a deal with MLS, let them rather have a deal with Belgium leagues. Because most of our young players that went to Belgium, they end up where? In the EPL. Why don't we? MLS does not export their players to Europe because the league is not as competitive as ours. Hence, European teams, they prefer coming to South Africa. Guys, a league to be the best in the world is not about how the fan base, how many teams are there, but it's about how competitive is it. You look at Blom in South Africa. Yes, he was a good player, was doing well, but he goes to an MLS. They even call him a stopper. He becomes the best Blom you have ever seen. It's because the competition is not as great as in South Africa. So those are the things that I feel like we as South Africans, we need to look at. Let's rather send Bo Mailula, Bo Blom to Belgium where they'll play Champions League. If they play for the best teams that side, they're exposed to teams in Europe. Pesito, he is who he is because he went to Belgium. He played for the best team in Belgium. He plays against Real Madrid and all the other big teams in the Champions League. So those are the things that I feel like we should look at and not just say MLS is a great league. Yes, it's a great league. What are their exports to the big leagues in Europe? How bad is the competition there? Because if there's no competition, then the players will flourish. But will they be able to take up? Will they be able to cope when they go to a country where there's so much competition? And let's not run away from the fact that the MLS league, to show you that the MLS league is just another league that it's all about money. It's the league buys players, not the teams, guys. I think people don't know that information. It's, for example, Messi was bought by the league. Meaning all the teams in the league contribute money to pay Messi's salary. How vague that is.
And the sponsors.
How do you expect competition in that kind of a league? Dr. Komphela in the 90s was bought by the league.
Columbus
not
Crew.
by the Sundowns. So those are the things that we say, but there is Messi. Yes, there is Messi. But will they be competition? Imagine you pay Messi's salary and then he scores 5 goals against you. So those are the things we didn't research much about. And those are things that we need to look at. My final word is allow our players to go to Belgium, Portugal,
Dutch League.
I think that's our best bet now.
Okay. No, I hear you. Ngocha, final question for you. How do we develop this mentality to compete overseas, or even just the mentality for them to want to go overseas and understand that it's not going to be a one-shot thing for these players? And then your final thoughts for tonight.
I live with reality, right? I do not have wishful thinking and saying that players should go where, Where are they wanted? The reality is, those who went to Belgium were not fed to Belgium. The Belgium team said, "Oh, we've been scouting these players. We want these players. We'll pay no matter how much money you ask for. We'll take these players." So our players right now have no place where they are wanted. If they're wanted in Egypt, there's a better deal than the PSL, and it's gonna be good for their own development, even if it's just here and we're gonna see them. If they're wanted by a team that plays in the Champions League in Morocco, that's a better option for them. You know, we have to be realistic with what we are able to do. Right now, the MLS is the one league that has shown us the kindness enough which they want our players. If you would do our real research, will show us there are a lot of American-born players and American players who go to Belgium, who go to Scotland, who go to Ireland, who go to the EPL, even the second, League One and all that. That is a better opportunity. That is the only opportunity that we actually have right now. We can't be debating chance we have. You know, whether is it a good chance or what? It's a better than having Blom being discouraged playing here for another 6 months, not being developed, because it will not be developed by you won't. That's the truth. Even if you cry for, but that is where the truth is. Number two, our teams don't keep coaches long enough to have any youngsters have a chance to be developed. Pep Guardiola can choose a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, but by the time he leaves there, that player will be a star because he knows that he can stay there for long. Teams Pirates haven't been doing that. All the coaches in the last 3 or 5 years or 10 years have been just there for 2 contracts or 1 contract, and then that's it. So Chiefs' failure to keep Hunt is actually the reason why a player like Blom saw no future in him being there, because he knew if Hunt was there, I was going to develop. And out of all the coaches that we have in the PSL, it seems like Hunt is the only coach that consistently, whether it's at Wits or Supersport, that can develop. As every single season will come up with a new or 3 or 4 players that we were not looking. Look at Masego right now; he's going to Sundowns. But 2 seasons ago, that player was just average. That player was just average. But with Hunt, he made that player become something better than he was. But Chiefs failed to see that and hold on to that investment of Hunt. That's how they lost it. I want us to always critique out of reality when we're critiquing our football, because it let us know where we are. In Africa, we are not in the top 10 because we don't deserve to be there. We haven't shown consistency. In Champions League, we are not even getting to number 2. The best team now that we are hoping is in Champions League. They're only good at a certain point. They have not developed. Even Sundowns themselves are not pushing all the way. So that's the reality. Our chances for needs most players from South Africa who are born in South Africa to have the most exposure in AFCON, so that they then develop the better exposure when the World Cup comes. That won't happen if you're holding all the players here. You're holding all players who are rejects in Europe. We're holding players that should be going to Europe, but Europe hasn't wanted them. That's the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no! But are you fine with the closing statements too?
My closing statement is okay. I'm looking forward to the PSL this season. It looks to be it's gonna be very balanced. And every team has a fair chance. Sundowns, yes, will win the league, but they're gonna have to fight for it this season. If they don't, other teams will take it. And also understand, guys, as much as we love our team, Chiefs is not Arsenal. They will not work around young players. They've not done this for a long time. They only work at 27-year-olds, not 24, 23-year-olds. They haven't worked around those players. So if a player is still at Chiefs and has potential at 27, then the player, they're going to hold him not to go anywhere. It makes sense for not for me, but it makes sense for them. I've understood them to team. And I want Bafana to also play in Champions League. I think our conversations would be in the next. So in the AFCON and the World Cup qualifiers, we play against Nigeria. We can still beat them, those guys who play overseas, but we need our players to develop the confidence enough to not be scared of Nigeria, so that we can beat them. Because man to man, they're not that great. It's just that they went to draw. They're not that great yet.
Yeah. Say something about Banyana. Say something about Banyana. They're playing this weekend.
I'm gonna talk after I see. I can't talk. I can't talk yet. It's too early.
Okay.
I have a lot to say about Banyana because of the Jordaan and Khoza.
I wanted to speak about that tomorrow. The contract situations with the technical stuff.
Guys, the World Cup is in 5 days or 6 days time. The women are still struggling with contracts. How are they gonna play and win? I'm not gonna be surprised if they get out from the group stages. Our SAFA is failing our women. That's it. I wanted to say. I'm ahead again.
We're gonna go into it deeply tomorrow. Lyrical Assassin. Final question for you. How do we create the mentality where players want to go overseas, number one, like they realize they want to go overseas, and also they realize that I'm going to have to put in work in order to go there. So if my dream, if one day my dream is to go into England, let's say, you need to realize what you're meant to be doing now. How do we make sure that they are aware of those things? And also your closing statements for tonight.
Danko, hosty. Danko. For the young players, it's a long journey because it's not even on them. Yeah. It's not even on them. It's on Bafana. Bafana is key in us being a force in the world again, because a strong national team leads to players going abroad. This is why we are suffering. Case in point, look at Argentina. Look at the top transfers that have happened after the World Cup because of how successful Argentina was in the world stage. Gunjar, McAllister, or Enzo Fernandez. It's because of the performance in Argentina, or Martinez in Manchester. You know, so the Bafana failure is what is stopping us, because even Percy Tau could have gone direct to Brighton. But because Bafana was so low in the rankings, he had to play in these other countries. And this is why our players are playing in these other countries, not because they need to develop at times, but because our league is so low. Bafana is a mover. This is why he needs to play here and here. And then England says, come play for us. So if Bafana is not strong, doesn't matter what we develop here in South Africa. Doesn't matter. Because Tau was one of the best that we've produced in terms of current crops. But I would like to say Pitso Mosimane is a great man. And may God bless that man. That man was able to say, you know what, Percy, rather you play here in Egypt. And that will give you, even though it's not Premier League, but it's a stronger league than PSL, and it will give you as an easy that you can take to the national team. Because I think Pitso knows that there is, we can't go straight. Our players can't go straight there. Even he can't go straight there as a coach, as you've said on many occasions, that he's going from one team to the other, trying to get there. So that is our problem is Bafana needs to be on top. You know, we can't even, as far as not winning if we can win an AFCON, then our players can go abroad. you know. And the AFCON also, coach, is linked to the CAF. The CAF. The reason why Bafana is starting to perform now is because of another great man's work, Patrice Motsepe, and what he's done with Sundowns. Sundowns now is always competing in CAF, and they're not just competing, they're beating these people with tactics and players. So now we are preparing with the best. So our national team is going to improve. Look at Tembazwan, you know, he's been sharpened, still sharpened, still. With Manju, we have a player in the national team that is strong. Because imagine if Teko Mudise was in a Bafana that was competing. Was in a Sundowns that was competing, or a Paris that was competing in the CAF. What type of player he would have been for Bafana? Because I used to say to Teko, hey, I used to be angry with that guy because of his performance in 2010. But now, as I grow older, I understand. He stage. Because that Bafana team, you know that they were playing with Brazilians. Fourth division Brazilians, beating them 7-0. And then next thing, you are going against a Mexican team that has players that play for Barcelona, that play for Manchester. So that is what I think, host. If you want our youth to go overseas, Bafana needs to start beating teams in Africa. Sundowns needs to have other competitors, not in the PSL, because Sundowns, PSL is theirs. 7 not, it's theirs. We need to, Sundowns needs competition in Africa. Can Pirates go and challenge for a second star? Can Chiefs win their first star? That is how we move. That is how we move. Yeah, but Argentina with one World Cup. Oh, all the Chelsea, Enzo, most expensive. Yeah, and Enzo is a decent player. I'm not saying Enzo is a bad player, but I'm telling you now, playing for Benfica a year ago or 2 years ago, they wouldn't have bought him for that. But because of what he did at the World Cup, I think that's the key for our players to go overseas. And then for final words, as South Africans host, I love platforms like this because I'm very passionate about football. Comes from my father, comes from his father, comes from my father's brothers, like the idiski, you know, football. My father played, I played, I still play. It's in me as a South African. Even where it doesn't matter where you come from, but especially if you are from Kasi or you're from Emakaya, football is in you. So I just wanted to say salute to all of them. But for my final words, guys, we need to bring up our football IQ as supporters, as a nation. Because you know which nation doesn't have a high football IQ? England. The English. The reason why the English hype up a player just for the sake of it is because they don't know football. And we are better than England. But if we can watch their league, because their league, if you look at their league, it's dominated by foreign coaches now because they realize things are not making sense here. Let's go get these people. But they've gotten all these people, but they still don't understand football. So what I'm saying is that we need to watch England. We need to watch niggas that know football. Spain. Because Spain, it's not physical. Spain, they just play tactics. Spain, the ball moves. You know, we need to watch the Germans. The Germans, it's more physical. It's more physical. They press you. You know, we need to watch other leagues. We need to bring up our football IQ so that when we are watching PSL, we can say, okay, these are the tactics that are going there. You know what I'm saying? So then we can judge a player. We can see that, okay, because Uzwane, I didn't really watch Uzwane, but I could see that there is a knowledge of football there, but there's limitations. There's limitations in a sense that he's working with harder cooking material. You're trying to make an omelette, but there's no eggs type of vibes. So you can't really judge a person like that. But now Chiefs have signed some quality players. So if they do that, because all they needed to do, host, was to just look at Sundowns and go knock on that nigga's door, because Kaizer and Patrice are out. They have each other's phone numbers. But it's pride. It's pride that nah, I'm gonna do this and that. We just need to uplift our football IQ, host, so that when we come here and we talk proper things. That's what I'm saying. Because our IQ is very small as a nation because of it's small. Because now it's not about how big you are. It's not about how strong you are. Because the best players in the world, they're not the fastest. They're not, and it's always been like that. Doctor was not the fastest nigga. Zidane was not the fastest nigga. Those were niggas that had natural football IQ from the beginning. But now that has stemmed from the niggas on the pitch to the coaches, because the niggas on the pitch became coaches. So now it's a language that we need to speak. We are not fluent in. We're not speaking. We are speaking like cavemen. We're speaking like cavemen, and even in England, they are cavemen, but they have taken all these niggas and put them in their league, and now they speak fluent. That's why in Europe they laugh at the English, the French, the Spanish, the England. They're going there now because there's money. And the coaches are there, and the football has improved. So let us as Mzansi stop being England, because even here in Africa, the Egyptians laugh at us. The Egyptians laugh at us with the football IQ is low here.
No, I hear
these people have all the talent, because the Egyptians, they don't have talent. They don't have. We have bodies. We have talent. If you go to a street, in whatever street, Mamelodi, you go to Kwamashu, you go to. If you go to a street corner and you see 6-year-olds, they're playing football on the street, and that's the talent. We have the talent. But how can we take that talent and extract it and put it into a system that can flood our football, like the Argentinians are doing, like the Brazilians are doing?
Hey, my brother, I'm going to have to just stop you there. Sorry, I could let you talk for a while. I want to listen but I have to close those threads. No, thank you for joining me. No, we'll have plenty more of these conversations as we go along. For me to close, just quickly to close, for me, football is not rocket science, but the only difference is that we don't really ask questions about things. We don't really question whether moves are good, whether these things are correct, whether anything that these teams and players and all these guys are doing makes sense, right? The one thing I want to speak about, I just want to speak about two things. One, the mentality thing is very important, because the mentality doesn't just come from the national teams and the clubs and all of that stuff. It has to come from the players too. And sometimes it just comes from understanding. So if I want to go play in the EPL, I need to understand that I can't be scoring 5 goals in the PSL. I can't be disappearing in certain games. I can't be doing all that stuff. The example that I use is Pitso. Pitso, we all know, wanted to go to Europe. I don't know if he still wants to now, but wants to go to Europe. And he understood that in order for me to get there from South Africa, from the PSL, I have to be the best in the PSL and then the best in Africa. And then maybe through years of hard work after that, I'll get to the point where I need to be, right? And I don't know if the players have that in their minds, that, guys, it's going to be a long, arduous road to go from South Africa to get all the way to the top leagues, because we don't have the structures. Unfortunately, we don't have the structures. We don't have the protections. We don't have the development. We don't have any of that stuff built for them. So the players really have to take it upon themselves, like we see with some of the foreign players that come to the PSL. Knowledge Musona comes to the PSL. Stepping Stone goes to Germany, because he realized that, hey, guys, the PSL is not the be-all and end-all. I could speak about me if I want to be in Supersport versus if I want to be at BT Sports, for example. There's work that has to be attributed to that, and I think we miss out on that knowledge of knowing, I'm going to have to work so damn hard in order to get there, right? And maybe the players get comfortable with the money. Maybe the players get comfortable with the love that they get. Abo riding Shabalala or Shapa skill, and then he trends. Maybe that's enough for him. But if you want to go any further, you have to put in the work and know where you're going. Secondly, I always question this. Good business in the PSL is not good business objectively when you look at it. Like if you were to look at the PSL and look at the choices teams make and things teams do and the decisions they take, for me, it's not good business, right? I look at Kaizer, a team like Kaizer Chiefs. I just want to close on this. A team like Kaizer Chiefs, for example. You can't tell me that I've got a Blom who's going to be a 5-6 year vet at Kaizer Chiefs if I keep him. This season would have been what? His fourth or fifth season at Kaizer Chiefs. And I don't do everything in my power to take that boy from, let's say, 50,000 to 150,000 and keep him happy, right? For example, and keep him and build around that. It's better, it's cheaper, it makes sense, right? But to sell him, get that money, and then through sign-on fees and all of that stuff, rotate through a whole bunch of players, means financially you haven't done good business. Cole Alexander was on a salary. Ustebe is on a salary. Umart is on a salary. Unange was on a salary. Over and above the signing fees, right? So you've done all of that instead of just, hey, we're going to give this guy 200,000 a month for him to stay. I don't even think Blom would have gone up to the 500,000, but 200,000 to stay, and we're going to build this team around you so that when Uzwane comes into the squad to play next to you, you've already got 4 years of experience at this point, and you can get 2 more years of experience and 3 or whatever where you guys are together. Because let's face it, the experience we speak about in the PSL, Chiefs went 8 years. We've gone 8 years, going into 9 years with no trophy. Do you know why? Experience. All the guys who were saying were meant to come in and change the team, and the guys who were calling stars and Abo Penat Parker, none of them could win trophies. So wouldn't you rather use that time on cheaper players? Especially when you've got players already in the team that have experience, that are young enough for you to go, you know what? I'm going to create a nucleus of players, and these guys, we may not be the best year 1, but year 3, Blom will only be 25. Uzwane will be, 22. Shabalala will be 22, 23. And now you've got a very good team because, like it or not, Chiefs is not winning a league. 15 teams in this league of ours are not winning the league. So build a squad, a proper squad, instead of signing average, normal players. That is not good business. A lot of the things where we speak about that as good, it's not good business. And it just shows you that a lot of our teams don't care about winning. They don't care about going anywhere. You have to fight and claw and do whatever to keep those guys. Look at Stellenbosch. They fought for Mayo to stay. But anyway, guys, we're going to carry on. Monday to Friday, 12:30 in the afternoon, I'm here. Monday to Wednesday at 8 p.m. You get to hear from me and also the incredible panels I have on. Guys, the gents that I have on and the people in the comments and the guys who watch the show are incredibly smart and talented at everything. Please, guys, head on over to Facebook to watch the previous episodes of the lives. Full panel, everything, they're all there in full. You can watch them in full that side, and also other footballing content that I have there. Please follow both accounts if you haven't followed, and also support me. I just put out a Banyana clip right now. Please help me out by supporting that and pushing it. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I will see you guys then again tomorrow at 12:30. Bye, guys. Oh, wait. Tabo, his name is Olwetu Khanye. He's a 19-year-old from Stellenbosch FC who's now joined Philadelphia Union. That's who that is on the screen.